How will Trump shut down the Evergreen State College? Well, this is a big question coming up because the incoming Trump administration, which officially takes office in January of 2025, they've already gone on the record, along with some of their Republican allies in both the Senate and the House, discussing the fact that they're going to have a very different relationship with higher education around America today than they have in the past and than our federal government has typically had recently. And they've had some very specific discussions, and one of the questions that always comes up is what's going to happen to Evergreen State College? Now, before we dive into that here, I'm just going to ask you, if you haven't subscribed or liked this video already, feel free to do that down below. It doesn't cost you anything except for a few seconds of your time. If you do want to support our channel, feel free to go down below. You can find a place on our website where you can donate and support us if you like what we're doing. And one thing I always ask is, if you do like this video, feel free to share it with your friends. It does make a difference. The more people who see it, and no matter how much Google may want to shadow ban us because we speak truth to power or question authority here in Washington State, it still gets the word out just a little bit more. So let's get back here to Evergreen State College, a broken institution that exists here actually in Thurston County, not far from where I live. And it is basically a college that's well known for just being out of control, for a collapsing student enrollment, for all kinds of other problems. They made national news in 2017 with a bunch of weird kind of leftist-oriented kind of near riots on campus, chasing professors off the college campus, and basically just a general embarrassment to the concept of higher and public education. It's been around since the 1970s. It was started by a Republican governor, Dan Evans, actually kind of stepped in to take over for a while, and it's gone downhill from the day it was actually started. Now, that being said, Bob Ferguson's going to be in this weird position. I got a photo of him here. He's going to be our new governor, and he's going to theoretically probably take the mantle of trying to defend Evergreen State College. But I don't know that that's going to be as easy for him as he wants. I've done plenty of videos about it before, wondering exactly how Evergreen State College can continue to exist, and especially in the midst of the collapsing student enrollment and just all the other drama that exists around a institution that's supposedly about higher education, but it actually just keeps demonstrating why it probably shouldn't be in existence at all today. I've done plenty of videos about this. Some of these videos have been some of our more popular videos on this channel. Now, you can actually see here, I actually even went so far as a few years ago to help redo their logo here, helpfully adding a couple of features that I felt more represented the Evergreen State College of today, rather than the theoretical political experiment it was in the 1970s when it started. You can see here I added some blue tarps and a garbage barrel for burning. And if you'll notice, I turned the tree in their logo into a hypodermic needle with hypodermic needle branches. I think this represented, with some help of some friends of mine, we thought this was actually a better logo, and I've given full permission to the Evergreen State College to convert to this logo with no worries about copyright infringement or even asking me permission to do so. But that being said, Donald Trump has come out here and been pretty vocal recently about his concerns about higher education and some different issues that they've talked about using at the federal level to address some of the concerns that many people have seen for decades in higher education. Now, a lot of this has been this argument, you'll see it here, a reference to just one of many articles that have come out about this, where they basically are threatening to remove colleges' accreditations, and specifically they've used this initial argument over civil rights violations. Now, this is an interesting reason and justification to use basically arguing that they're going to remove their accreditation, because it essentially is talking about the fact that these colleges have become kind of hotbeds of anti-Semitism or just attacks on free speech, which has been a common problem in a lot of these universities, and this just cauldron of abusive behavior and weird incestuous sort of behavior and other problems that exist in most higher education institutions today. Now, a part of this is because colleges like Evergreen State College, and here's a picture of their Bat Brigade from 2017, they do create this environment where, for instance, these students decide it was a good idea to be kind of a vigilante group traveling around the campus, chasing professors off they didn't like, and theoretically there to attack people with whose speech they disagreed with. It made national news. This photo made Evergreen State College famous, and for some reason, their student enrollment dropped after this because, I don't know why, a bunch of the students in America decided that as bad as this college is, and the fact that they will accept anybody with a heart rate and a pulse who can actually kick cash into the school, they'll accept you as a student. There's really no standards at all. For some reason, this just wasn't the optimal scenario that most students wanted to go for. That being said, it's really not the biggest problem probably at Evergreen State College. One of the bigger problems is they just seem to kill students, and for no other reason than just getting them exposed to carbon monoxide poisoning. And this was happened out of sheer and total incompetence by the administration itself. In fact, this is the student who died here a little while ago. And it was because he was actually told to keep going back in after the carbon monoxide alarms were going off. And the college just said, hey, no problem, just keep going back in until he died and several others got really sick. Going to Evergreen State College is a super high risk, not just for your future employment prospects, but simply going there as a student is a problem. Now, one of the questions is, what happens if a school like Evergreen State College, which certainly seems to be a prime candidate for losing their accreditation based on what the Trump administration has been saying, what actually happens if this occurs? This is a good question because, in truth, Donald Trump can't just come out and say, Evergreen State College, you're gone. He can't. He just can't do that. The colleges are run by the states. States can basically do what they want. They can fund clown shows endlessly if they would like to do so. And Washington State's been doing that for decades. But at a federal level, they do have some control or influence over this accreditation process. But if they eliminate the Department of Education, which is one of the things that has been brought up as a Trump policy, then technically these accreditation entities are actually not federal entities. A lot of them are education entities that the feds might have some supervision over or some funding goes through them, but essentially it's these groups that are determining whether a college is accredited or not. And they do take away accreditation from colleges frequently. I actually pulled the little headline that you saw there earlier about there's been about 20 colleges in America that have lost their accreditation over the last few years, and it's because of some scam or scandal that's going on. And so we already know what happens if a college loses its accreditation. And with Evergreen State College, one of the biggest impacts that you'd have there if they lost their accreditation is the obvious problem that federal student loans would not be guaranteed anymore. You can't take out a federal student loan to a college that has no federal accreditation. So, number one, that makes it highly unlikely that students who have, hit bottom and decided that this is their last resort for education above a community college, or certainly it's probably way below that, but if they decided they're going to spend this much money to go to a college, they're probably going to have to use that money and go somewhere else, because without accreditation, there's no federal student loan guarantee, and it would be very difficult to afford to go to the Evergreen State College. Now, presumably, you'd have some people who come from wealthy backgrounds that would still afford to be able to go there, or perhaps the state, in kind of a desperate attempt to keep this flailing institution alive, maybe the state would intervene and say that they would start to guarantee those student loans. And that's a risky behavior, but maybe they would do that. However, this would certainly reduce, probably, especially out-of-state students, it would reduce the likelihood of them attending to this location. The problem, too, is that if you already have a diploma from this place, it further devalues an already not very valued diploma. Right now, I can tell you that most people who graduate from Evergreen State College don't get jobs usually in the private sector. I've talked to many hiring private sector hiring people who are in their HR department, and they'll never interview a student who indicates that they went to Evergreen State College. It's got a really bad reputation for producing quality people that are capable of working in the private sector. But that being said, the biggest impact that you'd have from Evergreen State College shrinking or actually completely going away is that it has become the prime pipeline of employees to go into places like the Department of Ecology or planning departments in Olympia or Thurston County, or really all over the state, King County, everywhere else, because they do get hired. They're just usually hired in government jobs that have much lower levels of requirements and skills needed in order to go there. In fact, groupthink is their primary objective, and there's no group of people more likely to be imbibed with kind of this groupthink mentality than the people who come out of Evergreen State College. These are probably the impacts. So what you'd really see is this impact on student loans more than anything else, which kind of has this cascade effect where I think the school would suffer substantially moving forward. Now, the Evergreen State College has already been underwater for a while. It wasn't just those 2017 riots and then this kind of collapsing enrollment. They've had to do multiple rounds of staff layoffs. They kind of did hit bottom, the lowest level of enrollment they'd had in a while, and they were really proud of the fact that they'd gone up a little bit, and then it really didn't help them when they started killing kids with carbon monoxide poisoning. So for some reason, I don't know why, a lot of students have decided that maybe that's not the place that they want to go. The weird thing, like, Evergreen State College has these little buttons, alive and growing, which usually colleges don't have to tell the world that they're still alive. But at Evergreen State College, it's certainly a lie now. In fact, these are probably collector's items because they're barely alive, and they're clearly dying as an institution, supported only by the state's intervention and unwillingness to let go this failure. And one of the things to remember about the Evergreen State College is it kind of becomes this employment opportunity in Olympia for retired legislators like former State Senator Karen Frazier and others who get on the board or who go to faculty in some capacity at this institution. So the political insider operations are going to want to keep this thing going, but if they do lose their accreditation and continue to kill students, they're probably going to be running into just bigger problems moving forward. I'm going to point out, too, one of the things that potentially Evergreen State College is at risk with. I've been approached by a number of students over the years, not so much lately because there's just fewer students graduating or getting out of there anyway, but there has been talk of a class action lawsuit against Evergreen State College for basically destroying the value of their diploma to the point where some of these students have actually tested job applications to businesses where if they remove the Evergreen State College reference, they're more likely to get an interview than if they keep it on their resume. And they felt like they were misled and lied to about what an Evergreen State College degree would mean for them. And they felt that that destruction of the value of their diploma was an issue. Now, I'm not sure how far that any kind of a class action lawsuit would be against a state-run school like this. But if it loses its accreditation on top of all the other drama and problems this place has had, then that could be kind of a descending series of events that would be basically kind of disastrous for them. So just in closing then, when it comes to Evergreen State College, could they lose accreditation? Sure, it wouldn't be hard. Anybody who really looks at the place would have a hard time pretending that it's actually an institution of higher education. And that they have a 1,000-acre beautiful campus. There's probably a lot of other things that those resources could be used for. But that being said, the feds can only go so far. If they say that you can't get a student loan going there, then that's going to reduce just simply the number of students that go there, which would create kind of a spiral effect where they're going to have to lay off staff, and they'll probably hire a lot more bureaucrats because that's usually their response when they have to lose students and lose staff. But it basically creates this downward spiral. Now, unless you think Evergreen State College is the only school in Washington State on the potential chopping block for losing its accreditation, I don't think it is. I think Western's got some challenges with their ghost classes and firing their auditors and trying to cover up corruption there. And I think they're probably at risk through Huxley College and some of the other drama that they've created over the years. Even some of the smaller schools that aren't necessarily state visible schools like Western or Evergreen, some of those may be at risk as well, just in the way that they're suppressing free speech and really abusing the civil rights of the students who attend those institutions. But we'll have to see. Evergreen's probably the canary in the gold mine. And we'll have to see. It's really not a gold mine. It's probably more of a coal mine. But it's a canary in the coal mine. And we'll have to see what actually happens. And we'll have to see what the Trump administration actually does when they roll into D.C. In January of next year. And then perhaps Evergreen State College may become a part of Washington State lore. And we'll have a new 1,000-acre campus, mostly concrete buildings that can be repurposed to almost any other purpose that would be much more useful for our state. So with that, thank you so much for watching. And as I always say, if you want to be more engaged and involved in trying to make a difference, remember that the future belongs to those who show up.